Welcome back to The Bridges Between Us, a podcast from CaringBridge sharing real stories from real people navigating health journeys. Stories about caregiving, connection, uncertainty, and the many ways support shows up when life changes unexpectedly. My name is Andy Tiemann. This week I'm here with Paolo Narciso, who has spent 4 decades building companies, call centers, healthcare startups, AI ventures, and currently serves on the CaringBridge board, bringing a technologist's eye to social connection and care coordination. He knows data. He tracks everything: blood panels, visceral fat, lactate thresholds, sleep, recovery scores. So when his Apple Watch gave him a readiness score of 50% before a training run in Egypt, he probably should have taken a rest day. But he didn't. And that's why we're here today. More than anything, this episode of The Bridges Between Us is about activating care and your community when you need it most.
I am a technologist by training, and I love building new products and obviously starting new companies. And I've launched several companies over the last 35, 40 years that I've been doing this. I launched the very first call center in India and the very, very first call center in the Philippines. I did it for Microsoft and Apple. Sometimes I blame myself when I have to get on a tech support call or a customer support call and realize, hey, crud, that I started this whole problem. But I've also launched a healthcare company that actually was an outgrowth of that when after I had left that industry and then other things, I had gone back to the Philippines to visit. Many of the folks that were on my team are now like CEOs of these big companies. We were talking together and they said, we have a little bit of an epidemic here where a lot of the call center agents and the BPO agents are very sick. We have an 18% absenteeism rate. The chronic illness is significant amongst our staff. And in doing more research around it is pretty understandable, where if you're in that business, you're working US time zones, which is generally your night in your country. You get home at the end of your shift. You've got to deal with normal life and family and things of that nature. So you don't get much sleep, even though you think you can. And it's also really difficult to sleep during the day. This is not how our human bodies were actually designed. And then because the industry was that you do create more income and this middle class, all of them have developed these ecosystem of fast food restaurants around each center, and it runs 24/7 because that's when you have to support it. So it's easy to go out of your desk, walk downstairs, go grab a McDonald's at 3 a.m, and it's a high pressure job, so you're smoking. And so all of these things take into effect. And when we want to celebrate something inside of the office, it's always about donuts and pizza, right? Which is also not great, for you at the end of the day. So it's no surprise that there's an epidemic of chronic illness amongst the staff, and that then has its repercussions for absenteeism and other issues. I started in a company that provides primary care support for folks in the BPO industry. Eventually had about 1.8 million subscribers. It's turned into a small little hospital as well that can serve people. If you get sick, what happens is it takes 6 hours to get any kind of, get an appointment, go sit in an appointment. You're lucky if the doctor shows up. So just changing that whole approach to care. I've done other startups since then and was the entrepreneur in residence at AARP after I left and retired for a while. And now I'm in another startup, very much focused on rare disease and helping folks that are struggling with rare disease to find connections and to coordinate care.
I've got to imagine those call centers, you mentioned just that it's stressful, but you don't call a call center to tell them how great everything is. Some people probably yell, they're for sure complaining, they're confused. That in and of itself, the job, let alone the surround sound around it and the health and the time zones and everything, just doing the job must be tough too.
It's a very stressful job for folks in that industry. It isn't just the call center, it's also the accounting work and the back end engineering work. There's a lot of developers where you outsource your development to another country, and it's a follow the sun model, right? Because you always want to be coding, you always want to be delivering technology. So there's a ton of pressure around it, and the environment isn't that great for it, nor is there a real good support system that addresses those particular issues.
So how'd you get pulled into the CaringBridge board?
Through my work, both with AARP, when I was entrepreneur in residence at AARP, I worked a lot on social isolation and social connection, developing products and solutions around there. Worked closely with United Healthcare and knew a lot of folks that ultimately in the CaringBridge, Minnesota kind of in environment. And then obviously with my startup around rare disease, felt that I should join the board, especially with, I have a technology background. They're very interested in the whole approach to AI and machine learning, which is just the stuff that I focus on quite a bit and see if I could have, an impact there. And I'm a CaringBridge user. I use CaringBridge several times. One for my mom. My mom is 89. I am the primary caregiver for my mom. My brother took over that job as of today. So we're switching roles here for a bit. And then in November of 2024, I had a pretty nasty accident. I run marathons and stuff like that. And I was on a run. I suffered what they considered to be a complete heart failure. I still challenge that diagnostic. I don't think it's correct. And passed out and lost, I broke a lot of things, including my face, like my teeth, just
Oh
a
my
lot.
God. Take me to that day. How far were you into the cycle of that particular marathon? Like, what mileage were you hoping?
No, it wasn't actually. It was not even that a marathon. I was training for a marathon, but I was running trails. But I was in Egypt. I was doing some work in Egypt. It was very hot, and I was already encountering some issues there. I felt it was a jet lag. So I just needed to stretch the legs out. And so I went on a run and on a trail, and 3 minutes and 49 seconds into it. The only reason why I know that is because my watch paused, right? When you stop running, it pauses. Pause my watch because I don't want it affecting my time. I just gone. I recall my legs feeling a little bit heavy and feeling like, why am I struggling? Like, why is my heart rate? Like, I did look at my watch, just look at my heart rate, and my heart rate was spiking.
Right.
And I'm like, what's my heart rate doing spiking at such an early part? And it's I was just warming up. That's all I remember. I remember waking up a couple of times. The Apple Watch, one of its great features is that it will detect these things, right? It will detect falls. And I remember waking up because my watch was buzzing, alarming, and saying, you've had a fall. What would you like to call, like emergency? I don't even recall exactly. It was just a lot of noise. And I just saw it was just like yellow light. That was really all I heard. And then my Apple Watch. And I recall I was in one position, and then I woke up a second time and I was in a totally different position. I was actually on my face, and I was like, why am I on my face? And I was pushing myself up, and my watch was saying the same thing. But this time it was talking to the emergency services and telling me, it was giving my coordinates because I was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was giving my coordinates. That's the second time, like when I was waking up, that was kind of the second time. And then I must have passed out again and then woke up a third time. And by then the emergency personnel were headed my way. And then I was realizing why are my teeth out of my mouth? And there was like so much blood everywhere, and my shoe was bloody, and like the ground was bloody. So I was like trying to figure out what's going on here. So yeah, it was very hard to figure out exactly what was going on. And I was like thinking to myself, I'm in fantastic shape. I measure everything. I have every single device that tries to measure every component of whatever it may be. So my data was good, all across the board. I get a blood test every 6 months. I get a full body scan. I know what my visceral fat is. I track everything. To be fair, the data was telling me before I went on the run that I should not have run. It was saying, hey, you might want to take it easy today. It was giving me my readiness score at a 50%, which I've never seen before. It's fairly low. And it said, like, you might not want to be running. Your vitals don't look great. And this is just jet lag, right? I've been in Italy. I have been traveling like crazy. It's hot, eating weird food, like all kinds of things. So I thought like the best way to knock the cobwebs out is go for a run. That's what I did. And I knocked the cobwebs out and knocked more of the cobwebs out.
Yeah. So what did you all break?
First, my front teeth were all gone. My face was fractured. So I had broken both my cheekbones. My jaw was also broken. I don't know why, but I had call it traumatic brain injury because I apparently had hit the ground 4 times, and I'm not sure exactly how that happened. It may have been I was getting up and then fell again, and I was just unconscious. Probably did. I probably got up, tried to keep going, and hit the ground again, and to deal with that the brain injuries at that particular point as well, swelling in the brain. But it was all the break was above my.
Like you hit your chin and
My hands never worked. Like it never decided to stop the fall. So that it went so fast that apparently that my hand just went
Sure.
I didn't have anything wrong with my hands. There were not even abrasions on my hand. Like I tried to stop myself.
You just Supermaned into the ground.
Yeah, exactly right.
Your watch must have known then when you finally got taken, it started moving again. You're in an ambulance now. How long were you laying there?
17 and a little over 17 and a half minutes
My gosh.
from the first fall to the emergency personnel coming.
So, I mean, yes, your face was all messed up, but you had a heart attack. What was wrong with your heart?
So they diagnosed it as, I didn't believe I had a heart attack. They just said, hey, look, it was a complete heart failure. Your heart just stopped. Right. I'm like, I don't think that's right. I mean, they did CT scans and, all kinds of stuff on my heart. So I still contest that diagnosis. I believe the issue was sometimes when you run long endurance events and you're training for endurance events, it will cause anemia. And I believe that was the issue because they did have to put in 2 liters of blood afterwards. And that blood didn't come out of my face.
Wow.
Right. So I believe that was like when you don't have enough red blood cells, obviously the oxygen doesn't get to your brain decided I'm done. And that was it. So I believe that was the issue versus a symptom of where they were. But again, we don't know that. I'm not arguing. It's just really weird. I have 4 doctors on that are part of my co-founders for this company I have. Even with the 4 doctors, like everybody's still fighting about, they weren't the attending physicians. It was they're obviously just looking at the data afterwards. And, they were always on the phone with all the other physicians saying what's going on here. And these are our Stanford and Harvard medical guys, right? I know they're not looking at the right thing. And so it's really interesting kind of going through that debate. It's still, we don't know is the bottom line as to exactly what the issue is. I believe it was just purely nothing more than I lost blood and because of losing blood or being anemic, which happens from a lot of impact from running, just based on the studies I did. That's probably what caused it. But the hospital doctors think it's complete heart failure. And that's actually what my records say, complete heart failure.
Wow. So now you're in an Egyptian hospital and you're getting all medically
I got
together.
back to DC.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I was at Walter Reed, and then from Walter Reed.
But they stabilized you and got you. I mean, you're all bandaged up and you're on a flight back.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're in DC. So you're back in the States, and how long were you in there getting fixed up, or was it just a matter of healing at that point in dental?
Well, it's just a couple of hours. I was on a plane back, and then I actually got into hospital. I'd walked out of the hospital. I said, I need to take a walk. And on the sidewalk, I fell again. And then that was the end of it. From that point on, I wasn't leaving. They weren't letting me go anywhere. And then the other issue was in the hospital, final time in the hospital, I actually also passed out in the bathroom. And at that point, after that last one, which I also hit my head, not a good idea. They tied me to the bed. I wasn't allowed to leave that bed. Like I couldn't even get my legs off the bed.
Eventually the blood took and how did you kind of recover and stop falling over?
Yeah. So eventually, so they tried, we went through everything from gastrointestinal scans to see if there's any bleeding internally, colonoscopy, nothing's wrong with me. Like they were trying to figure out why. It's like, if it was anemia, what were you bleeding from? Couldn't find anything at all from that perspective, which is why they said it's a complete heart failure, because there was nothing wrong internal across the board. So it was just a matter of getting a whole bunch of blood transfusions. That was really the only treatment that I received. I mean, I was there for a week. Once I was tied down to the bed, I was there for a week. The first time I was there for like just a day, and then I left. And then like I said, I'm just going to go for a walk. I was thinking about going for a run, but I said, no, just go for a walk. And then that's when the last time was 6 days in. And that was just nothing but blood treatment, constant testing to figure out what's wrong. Obviously, my brain was swelling from hitting the ground a lot of times. And so treating the brain injuries, but that was pretty much all they did in the hospital.
Oh my gosh. And so at some point you started a CaringBridge page so that everybody could update once and not have to call and text everybody every time something happened.
Yeah, they also wanted to take my stuff away from me because I was trying to work with my laptop, and they said that's enough. So there was a better way for, the CaringBridge approach was the better approach.
Oh my gosh. So how long ago was all of this?
So it was November 2024.
Wow. You're all healed up. Your teeth look great.
I ran the LA Marathon in March of 2025. I did the New York City Marathon in November 2025, and I just finished the London Marathon a week ago. So yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I suppose the CaringBridge page is all but retired at this point. It was just a temporary thing.
Correct.
Well, I'm glad you're doing better. Like, it's just, what a fluky thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's the issue of just anything from a healthcare perspective. As much as you think you're in control of your data, you're control of, you still know what could potentially happen. And the things about CaringBridge that I particularly like is when these things happen, it's how do you activate care? Right? How do you activate your caring community and to lessen that burden? Because that is either for the caregiver or for yourself if you're doing it yourself, which is rare. That's just a lot more administrative a burden, and not just administrative, but psychological burden, and just you don't get a rest, right? It's the same complaint I have in the hospital where, why are you waking me up every 2 hours? I mean, it's not quite like that, but the tools that CaringBridge provides was, again, not just for what I experienced, not just as a patient, but also for my mom, where they asked me to join the board is pretty straightforward.
And for your mom, it's purely caregiving, and you're able to trade off with your brother, and it'll just be the same updates, but from someone else's keyboard.
Correct.
How long has that one been? How long have you been caring for your mom?
So my dad passed away 7 years ago, so it's been 7 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. And is she over here? Where is she?
So I'm in Los Angeles today.
Okay.
I normally live in Charleston, South Carolina. So as we speak, my mom is on a plane from the Philippines onto Ontario, California. But she's going to be living with my brother moving forward. She was living with me until March of last year.
God, I'm glad you're all right. I mean, what do you have to say to, I mean, I wear an Aura ring and I've got an Apple Watch, and I mean, it tells me things about my sleep, never any dire warnings, but like, I do kind of dismiss it and think, how can it really know? I know me. I suppose you felt a bit of that too. I know myself pretty well. I'm not going to listen to this device and its warnings.
It's a problem. I do love Aura. I mean, I have been a fan of Aura. I think they've always improved, constantly improving. I think it's a pretty good predictor of like illness and like, vitals are coming up. I can't sleep with my Apple Watch. So there's also data from your Apple Watch that you can pick up as well. I think the data and the trends are worthwhile long term. I particularly think they're excellent for building better habits for long term. Look, I'd like to take blood tests like the best way to get any kind of data is just to get a blood test, right? Like even running your lactate threshold is technically a blood test. Now, our watches will calculate that, but it's better when you're in a lab and you take the blood and they really figure out what your lactate threshold is. I think the tools are great to be able to, again, build those better habits. I frankly think the Apple Watch saved my life. Like, I mean, I wrote Apple a letter saying, hey, this is what happened, and thank you for the watch, because it was amazing.
Well, and for it to work so flawlessly, somewhere way far away from where you normally are, and it just worked like it should. It was amazing.
Yeah, and the watches have SOS, and so they have satellite connections. So even if you're in remote situations, it is very good. Would I want to keep wearing an Apple Watch? I don't like wearing an Apple Watch all the time, but it's no doubt what it was able to do.
Do you know that like tech path? How does that work? It knows where you are with GPS.
Sure, GPS, yeah.
And then it just figures out the closest EMS and just calls
But
911 wherever you are.
It will get your specific coordinates, because that is what it was reading out. It was reading out my specific coordinates.
Oh,
Because when I woke up, I was like, it was reading out coordinates,
okay.
right? Giving my exact location. And it would then spot the nearest EMS towards that location and to broadcast at that particular point. I think it's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's happened. It didn't do it on purpose. I was on a climb in Peru and I slipped a little bit, but it was just a small slip. And where your rope kind of tugs a little bit and you stack into the side of the mountain a little bit. Watch went off at that particular point because it was telling like, hey, like it thought something had happened, and it was then reading out coordinates that I had to turn it off. Like I said, hey, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Right. But that's amazing what it is.
I'm listed as a contact. I'm a cyclist, and we're all each other's contacts. Sure enough, a buddy of mine, I got the little alert like Ryan has fallen, and he quickly was sending texts to all of his contacts like, I'm okay, everything's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and fine. Yeah. I think those devices, not just from that perspective, from the emergency standpoint, but stuff like Aura and Home Health and the Whoop bands and stuff, I think there's just a lot of value in being cognizant of the data so that you can take action against the data. But, it is, I also think people need to learn what the data means.
Being a board member, you're in the mix, more than the average bear for CaringBridge. Is there, This is going out hopefully to a large audience here pretty soon, and it's growing every day with every post we make. What would you want to tell people as a board member, to people that might be listening and debating whether or not to start their own page, or to they're considering CaringBridge, but they're resistant for some reason?
I think certainly from if you are caring for a loved one, there are ways to be able to we have a lot of different technologies that we can use to keep everybody up to speed. You can create WhatsApp groups. You can certainly create Facebook groups or any other of the social platforms to be able to do that. I always tell people it's specifically when it relates to medical data, that data that when you use it on social is not protected. On CaringBridge, it absolutely is. The second piece about it is CaringBridge is a way to activate care. So there are other things you can do after CaringBridge that are all integrated together. The ability to, get food for somebody else or order food or start a GoFundMe page and things of that nature are completely integrated with CaringBridge. The tool, again, you're creating your own page, authoring your own page is such an easy approach where you're, again, not worried about your data on Facebook, and sharing it from that particular perspective. It's so easy to update and it's so easy to be able to express what your needs are. Again, I don't know if you necessarily want that in a very public setting like a Facebook and so forth. It's if you are thinking about a CaringBridge page and you are caring for somebody, there's just so many advantages I just talked about that why you should do it. For people that are, and this is probably going out more for doctors and for people in the medical profession. The thing I talked about with my team, who are all doctors, is and the challenges that we see. And I today I have a startup that focuses on rare disease specifically and helping folks navigate a rare disease diagnosis and provide care coordination for that. In many cases, we all know the data around how social connections improve your health outcome. And there's nothing better. And I always want to encourage doctors to do this is when you see a patient that needs this care, encourage them to start a CaringBridge page. It's really easy for them to do so. And by so doing it, it activates the connections, the social connections that you need that we know is the evidence to be able to improve health outcomes in a very private, protected setting, which we don't necessarily get on traditional social media site. So that's what I would tell both people who are caring for somebody and also for the doctors that are listening to this.
And there you have it. From the chairman of the board himself, CaringBridge isn't only for long-term illness and caregiving. It's also for injuries and short-term use to rally social connections which improve health outcomes to help you heal faster. And finally, as always, a reminder, if you or someone you know want to share a story of hope, resilience, or caregiving here on the podcast, send us an email or reach out via the contacts listed on the main page. We'd love to talk to you next. See you next time.